Okay, we're ready. All right, so hi everyone. Yeah, like Daniel was saying, if you can go ahead and I guess unmute your cameras, that's more engaging and more fun to see everyone's faces. We promise we won't put you on a billboard anywhere, so no worries. But before I get ahead of myself, my name is Titilayo Ayangade, and I'm a cellist, a classically trained cellist based in the US. Currently, I split my time between New York City and Washington, D.C. I just relocated from Austin, Texas, and I've also lived in Chicago, San Francisco, Indiana, and of course, Austin, Texas, New York, DC, and I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. So I know that's a bit of a mouthful, but oh, look, we're getting more people. Should I
Yes.
wait a second?
Yeah, you can just keep going. I'll just admit people as they jump in.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, I'm so happy that Àkójọpọ asked me to come and talk about how to prepare for an audition. And it's something that I have a lot of experience in and all kinds of auditions. So I saw some of the questions on the other end, and we'll get to those later. I'll try not to touch on them before we get to the Q&A, but I'll make sure I incorporate some of them into, is that good? Or should I talk about them during too?
Yeah, I think if you save them for the end, just kind of talk about your experiences. But yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I was saying, I'm really happy to talk about those things. And of course, if anyone has any questions or if you can't hear me, just go ahead and unmute and say, hey, I can't hear you. No worries about interrupting me. I'd rather make sure that everybody's comfortable. All right, so let's get started. I am so happy to talk about all my experiences with auditions, but if you've ever taken audition, raise your hand. All right, we've got two hands raised, and I'm going to imagine that the other three people that are not, I can't see, have taken an audition. Awesome, yes. Okay, now, one more question. Has anyone ever taken an audition and not gotten the job, the school, the thing you really wanted? I know I have. Don't be scared. Okay, great. Yeah, so what I wanted to focus on in the front of this was what it feels like to have that sense of failure and to learn from it. Because I've also, well, I didn't ask you guys this, but I'll go ahead. So, how many of us have taken an audition and won it and it felt so good? Okay, great. I'm sure all of us. But like I said, I wanted to focus on failures because I think that's actually how you learn the most for how to prepare. One of the auditions I really, really was focused on and was really excited to take is the audition that I didn't get. And when I was preparing for this presentation, I was thinking about all the things that went wrong, and I was really focused on like what it felt like before I went to the audition. And from day one to the finish of the audition, I felt too comfortable. I wasn't pushing my edges. I wasn't pushing my experience, and I didn't make myself uncomfortable. Because I personally think that auditions, especially orchestra auditions, are some of the most unnatural situations you can put yourself in. They're asking you to come in and prepare one measure of this whole piece, where usually in rehearsal or in concert, there's 60 other people playing, but now they only want to hear you. I mean, it's pretty unrealistic. So let's say you're practicing Don Juan or any other piece, a Mozart symphony, and I don't know everyone's instruments, but I'm speaking from the string players here. Just thinking about preparing those Don Juan excerpts, you have all these notes, and finally you get to the day where you can play it perfectly. Okay, but could you play it perfectly while there's a fire truck going by and while they're telling you to leave the hall and someone's talking and no one's looking at you and no one's attention is on you? Probably not. That's even more unnatural. So there's a couple steps to preparing to the audition. So I like to start with the first bit, which is making sure you have all of the music. This goes for any kind of audition. It could be for orchestral auditions, like your first audition for undergrad or for a really important grad school, and honestly, even for an audition for a string quartet. And so you want to make sure you have all the music, and I actually play off of an iPad, and I know not everybody can do that, but even if you don't have like a digital device to play off of, which in my opinion means that like all the music is stored in one place, it's really good to make like a folder in your email, a folder in your Google Drive, something where like if it's the day of the audition and your music is on the plane or like you left it in your hotel room, you can get it really quickly. There's nothing worse than like losing your music in a really important moment. And trust me, I've done it. So just remember that. So that's step number one. Step number two is make sure that you read through all the music right when you get it. Even if you can't play it, even if it's just finding like recordings and making sure those links are available to you, just playing through it really slowly, because then you know what to expect. You know, I've had experiences in the past with students of mine when they're preparing, and they're so scared of a piece that they don't want to look at it. And they save it for later. They're like, oh, I'm not ready. I'm practicing. I'm practicing. I'm getting ready for the audition later. And then the day comes and there's something really hard at the end of the piece, and that's not going to work. Okay, so step number two is to read all the way through all of your music. Let's see. Step number three, I would say, is to get a pencil, get a pen, whatever it is you want, and start writing in things as you're going through. That first read through is one of the most important times in your music preparation. It's when you're the most inspired, like you don't know the piece and you really want to know it. So you might make mistakes that you will either continue to make or that are really informative about phrasing and tempo and things like that. And that's really important to make sure that you get that down on paper, because my brain is not as good as it used to be. And sometimes I'll just forget things. So the only way to make sure that you don't, mess up yourself is to make sure you write that in there. After that, we can focus on, one step that I kind of skipped. It's step 0. And it's picking the time before the audition. Now, as you start to take more and more auditions, you need less time to get ready. But when you're first taking auditions, it's really important. Like most places will put out the information or the date of the audition 3 months in advance at least. It's not too common that it comes later. Sometimes it does, and that's your call if you feel like you have enough time to prepare for that. But I highly recommend 3 months, because even if you're not preparing every day, like let's say you only have 3 days a week to practice because you also are doing school and you're taking lessons for something else and you're traveling and you have a day job, you're a doctor or something, you need time to prepare. You never know what happens. You might get sick. And, I'm sure some of you are thinking 2 months ahead, oh, that's fine for me. But what if you got sick? Or what if you had to suddenly move out of your home? It seems excessive. But the only thing that can actually prepare you for the audition is time and preparation. And like I'm saying, the preparation time gets less and less. So you still are preparing, but after like years of preparing or months of preparing or a year of preparing, it's even better, because all that time is preparation that adds up on top of itself. So you never lose that. And I think that's really wonderful. And that's why I like practicing, because it makes me feel prepared. I know practicing can be a little bit tedious or whatever, but once you kind of get in the zone and you think about it more and more, man, it just feels so good to feel prepared for things. And to be honest, that's one of the things that drives me to practice and to play my instrument every day, is feeling ready for anything that could come at me. Like, you want me to play a solo tomorrow? I've got it. I've got music right here, and I'm excited because I've been preparing now for 24 years. All right, I'm going to pause for a second because we've gotten enough new people. So I'm going to flip back a little bit. I'll reintroduce myself, and then I'll jump into some other parts of preparing for an audition. Is that good?
That's good. I'm just kind of a ghost here. I just kind of.
Great. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Titilayo Ayangade, and I'm a cellist based in the US. I split my time evenly between New York City and Washington, D.C., so 2 very fun places. I've been playing cello for 24 years, almost 25 years now. And most recently, I spent my time in several string quartets. So I'm the only cellist in an ensemble, which is an extremely unique position to be in. But I've also played in orchestras such as the Civic Orchestra of Chicago, Chicago Sinfonietta, and various festival orchestras around the country. I've had the pleasure of visiting almost every continent but Africa. So hopefully that's coming up soon. I've been to China, Australia, the whole 9 yards. I really love playing music, and I also really love talking. So if I'm ever talking too much or you can't hear something, don't be afraid to unmute and tell me that you couldn't hear it or that you have a question. We'll hold some time at the end for questions, but I'm also totally happy if you're really inspired to ask me to clarify, to unmute and just go ahead and ask, or raise your hand and I'll call on you. All right, let's jump back into preparing for some more auditions. So just to sum up what I've talked about already for those of you that just joined us, I've talked mostly about orchestral auditions and how to prepare from day 0 all the way down to the day of the audition. After this, I'll talk about chamber music auditions, which are very different. And I'll also talk about auditioning for like competitions or conservatory, which I kind of lumped together. So we had step 0, which is to make sure that you have all your music in the same place and everything is compiled in any place you can find it really quickly, because you don't want to feel like you can't find your music. And then after that, you're going to go ahead and read down the music so that you can make sure that there's nothing that's going to surprise you later. And my recommended time to start this at minimum, this is absolute minimum, is 3 months. And I was saying that because you never know what's going to happen. You might have to move, you might get a new cello or a new violin, any instrument, a new flute, and you might need to adjust to it. So 3 months, that gives you the time to have time to waste. To be honest, that's really what it is. You might be inspired for 2 weeks. You might practice really hard for 2 weeks, and then you go on vacation for a week. And then you've still got 2 months and 1 week. And I think that's seriously really important. And one other topic I touched on was just the feeling of preparation and time being the most important parts of the preparation for an audition. So if you don't have time, you can't properly prepare. And I was also saying that over time, the more you prepare, the less time you need to prepare, because that preparation, it accumulates. It's like the building blocks or the foundation to your audition day. So going more down the timeline, you now get to the part where you've practiced really hard and you think you sound really good. You think you sound really good. Now that's the important thing here, is you're the only person that's heard yourself, you know? So at that moment, I absolutely advocate for going and playing for someone. You know, it doesn't have to be your teacher. It could be your mom. You know, moms always know best. My mom always tells me when I'm out of tune, and she's a doctor, you know? So play for anyone. And if you have a teacher, that's really awesome. Go play for them too. Play for as many people as possible. And, you know, I've been playing for so long that I remember when it was not possible to make a recording of yourself very easily. Back when we were using CDs and tapes still, and there were no iPhones. Oh my gosh. But nowadays I could take my iPhone, I could grab it right now, I could record. This meeting is being recorded. Everything is being recorded. So even if you can't play for someone, or if you can play for someone, grab your phone. If you've got fancy stuff, that's great. If you've got a nice microphone and like a kit and you've got all the stuff that I've got hanging out here, set it up and get a really nice recording. That's even better. What I'm saying is you don't have to pay anyone to come in and record you when you're practicing. Just get it down and then listen to it. And I kid you not, go ahead and take notes. I'm not joking. Like, take notes on your own performance. Listen to your own performance like you would anybody, like you would Yo-Yo Ma, like you would your favorite violinist, Itzhak Perlman, whomever, like you would to Kanye's new album whenever he drops it. Like, listen to it and have opinions, okay? It's so important because, again, I was saying this earlier, our brains don't remember things, and then they really don't remember the things they don't like. Like, you forget about it. Like that time you played really badly, you don't want to think about it. So it's important to focus on those things, because when you go into the audition, that's what the committee and the people sitting there watching you, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for like that first mistake, and you know, it's okay, you can make mistakes, but then the second mistake, they're like, oh, strike two. And I hate to say it, it is a little bit like that, but I'll get into more nice things in a minute about like how it matters to have phrasing and beauty and tone. All right, so I said you're going to record yourself. You're going to play that recording back. You're going to do the recording multiple times at each stage. It's also really rewarding when you get to the end to listen to the recordings all the way back from when it sounded bad to when you sound awesome. Progress is a huge motivator, and it's something that's highly overlooked. Okay, so I'm framing this from maybe a bad point of view. I'm framing this from getting better. What I can also frame it from is being excited at how good you sound. So like you're playing, you're practicing, and you're like, man, this really does not sound good. Like, I don't know what to do. And then you listen to it and you're like, hey, that actually sounds pretty good. So that's another thing, like reward yourself for progress. Every time you listen to that recording, the more people you play for, the more opinions you can get, which is also really important because on the committee of these auditions, you're going to have 5, 6, 7, 8 people watching you, and they're not all going to share the same opinion. They didn't talk before and ask you about and talk to each other about what they wanted. They're going to have different opinions. So the more people you play for, the more opportunities you have to have different opinions, and you can incorporate those into your music making, or you can decide that that's okay and you like how you're playing and you don't have to incorporate it. So next after that, you've played for everybody, you've done everything. What I want to suggest is to start doing what is called in the music world is mock auditions. And it sounds kind of like the lessons were that, but a mock audition is the complete simulation of the actual audition. So, I mean, if you can, you should wake up at the time that you're going to wake up for the audition. You should try and do the routine you're going to do. That's not incredibly important. I think it can be limiting to have like a ritual, like you have to have coffee, banana, everything, because again, what happens if you spill your coffee and you can't have it and now you're really freaked out? So the mock audition is a way of sort of twisting reality to feel more like what it's going to feel like in the moment of the audition. So actually, if you have a routine, I would break it. I would try different things. You might find something that you really like. But most importantly is just like getting prepared for the instrument. So you get ready. If your audition's at 9 a.m., this is especially important because you need to be up at 7 a.m. getting ready and feeling what it's like to play at 9 a.m. because it's very different than like playing at 2 p.m. or noon or 7 p.m. I know from personal experience, before I was taking a lot of auditions and I was just playing some concerts, the concerts are always at 7 p.m. So I got really used to feeling ready to play and perform at 7 p.m. And then auditions, they don't care. They're going to be at 11 a.m., 9 a.m., midnight, I don't know, anything. Or you could be in another country and you could be jet lagged. So it's really important to play at all times of the day. And then try and ask your friends, your stuffed animals, I don't know, anything. You could do a live stream, actually, that would be even better, a live stream of your audition excerpts and your pieces and perform it for an audience and have those people really sitting there serious, listening to you and ready to provide feedback. And then by the time you get to the audition, by the time you do 3 or 4 of those mock auditions, it's a no-brainer. You've done this. There's no way for your body to get those feelings of anxiety or worry or feel stressed about what's going to happen because you've done it. Like, I don't know how many times now. You've done it 5, 6 times now. And that saves you the pain of taking 5 or 6 actual auditions and losing them or failing them. And again, failure is good, but it does feel even better to succeed on the first try. So if you think about it this way, you've taken those 5 mock auditions and the stakes are really low because you can't pass or fail them. It's like a class, honestly. It's like when you take a class and they grade you A, B, C, D, F versus pass, fail. The stakes are a little bit different. So when you lower the stakes, as in you've done all these mock auditions and it's for your friends, and honestly, my friends make me more nervous than strangers. I'm not kidding. Like, friends, they really tell you how it is if they're your good friends. Strangers, you'll never see them again. Your friends, they've seen you mess up, they've seen you succeed, they've seen you in all of the times of your life. All right, I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but I'm going to give you the details of an audition that I succeeded at, an audition that I did not succeed at. And I'm going to start with the one I didn't succeed at. So this was for a position with the Minnesota Orchestra, and I was very excited about it. And they held pre-screening auditions, and I practiced so hard for it. But, I was recording it at home, so I had a couple times to do it. And I passed the pre-screening, and oh my gosh, I was so happy. I was like, I've made it. I put all my eggs in one basket. I focused everything on this, and I got kind of sure of myself. I got kind of cocky. I didn't play for very many people. I played for maybe 2 people, and they said, wow, Titi, like, you sound amazing. And I borrowed a really nice instrument. I changed my instrument. maybe 2 weeks before, and I thought I knew everything that was going to go down. I got to the audition in Minnesota the night before. I stayed in a hotel, and I had my morning routine, which was very ritualistic. It was a banana coffee, like I needed certain things. And I woke up that morning and realized that I forgot my outfit at home. It wasn't in my suitcase. I had to go buy clothes that I'd never worn before. Everything was changing. I was late to the hall. Mind you, I was still early, but I was late to the time when they told us to get there, and the door was locked. And my heart is going boom, boom, boom. Everything is going crazy, but I'm thinking, oh, I know how to play. I'll still play. I'll still play just fine. And that's not what happened, because I hadn't simulated the audition experience. And I got on stage, and it was like I had never played cello before. The instrument that I borrowed that I thought I loved, I suddenly didn't know what was going on because I was in another place and it was humid and the instrument was different again. And I'm getting chills thinking about this. Just like everything that could go wrong went wrong because I didn't try making it go wrong. And so it was all unexpected. And I didn't get the job. And it was really sad because I was really, really focused on it. And I had been practicing for 4 months. All right, so let's flip over to an experience where I did get the job, and it came right after this. So that was an orchestral audition that I was talking about. And now I will talk about a chamber music audition that I took for the quartet that I'm currently in. So I got a call right after this audition for the Minnesota Orchestra that was like, hey, like you've been recommended to audition with my friends in the Titlayo String Quartet, who were based in San Francisco at that time, and to read chamber music with them. And they want you to fly out and audition. And I was like, oh my God, can I do it? Because I was so scarred from this previous audition. And it's kind of wild because I had gotten auditions before that, like for Civic Orchestra and for Chicago Sinfonietta. I'd had success and I knew what to do, but this time I got cocky. So for the chamber music audition, it was even higher stakes because I was sort of deciding whether or not I wanted to continue with playing cello or if I wanted to pivot to a music adjacent career, like maybe arts administration or something like that. And it was either that or I was going to start to transition to something else. So I was really nervous. So I did step 0 immediately, and I got my music. I asked him for the music and I got it all together, and I just started listening obsessively because chamber music auditions and orchestra auditions are similar in the way that you're the only person playing in the audition. But in orchestra, obviously there's 8 other cellists, 9 other cellists. But in the quartet, when you get there, there's only you. So you can't, there's a lot of things that would get away in orchestra, but that wouldn't be okay in chamber music. So I started taking lots of notes. I started recording myself. I actually got together my friends and I said, hey, I want to simulate the experience of playing this stuff in a quartet. And that was amazing. I like hosted reading parties and I had my friends over and I brought wine and we read the music and then we did it again. And then I had another one the next week. And that was invaluable because with chamber music, you need to know who to look at, who you're playing with on the score, who to cue. It's all seriously important. So it was so invaluable to have my friends willing to do that with me. And I got there early. I flew out to San Francisco 2 days early and I made sure I had everything. I asked questions. That's also very important. Make sure you ask questions. So like if you're looking at the music and they sent you the music and it says end at measure 127, but the music stops at 122, email like right away. Oh my gosh, you do not want that to be a thing in an audition either. I've heard stories from friends that have gone to an audition and the music has been wrong. And it's not their fault because it's the orchestra manager's fault that they posted the wrong music, but it is their fault if they don't ask and everyone else seems to know. So that's really big. All right, let's see. I think I have a bit of time to touch on auditions for school because this is very different. And I liken this, I think this is very similar to like a competition audition because it's extremely competitive. There is money involved, you know, and and you're the only one getting the spot. It's you. It's all about you. This degree is about you. The competition is about your image, your playing, your sound. So for these auditions, and for all auditions, it's so important to have a real personality in your playing. In orchestra auditions, I know some people think that it's very important to become one with the orchestra and to play exactly like them. I think that's changing a little bit in the orchestra world, and they're starting to look for people who have a really unique style. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. Like, you don't want to play Brahms like it's Shostakovich or something like that, but you do want to make sure that it's really you. Like, you're playing from your heart and you're playing from like your interests. So, but for school auditions and for concerto competitions, it's really important to have a personal sound. So I'm currently doing my doctorate at the University of Maryland, and this was a huge audition because it came with stipend, so they pay me to go there, and then I go to school there for free, and I also get invaluable teaching experience, and I get my final degree. All of this was really important. And for a competition, for instance, I had a competition in China with my string quartet, and this competition was a pretty big deal. And as a quartet, we had to figure out how to make our sounds each sound like soloists. And you don't want to imitate anyone, but like, you could go listen to any cellist, any violinist, and just sort of listen for the difference between each of their playing. Everybody sounds different, and no one is trying to sound the same. And you shouldn't either, but it's really important to hear the differences. Like, in someone's playing, the first thing you might notice is that, wow, they have a fantastic vibrato. In another person's playing, if you can see a video, you might notice that they have a really incredible right hand with their bow. Or if it's a flute player or woodwind player, maybe you notice that their sound is very pure. You don't hear any bad sounds when they start playing, or that their sound allows for you to hear other players playing with them, which is really special. And again, take notes, think about what you could do with your sound and what you could do with your playing to sound really unique and really captivating to the ear. The number one thing that committees are listening for, because I've now had the opportunity to sit on a couple committees for auditions themselves, is intonation. If you're not playing in tune, it's hard to get past that. Even if you're playing with the best rhythm and like your sound is really great, having not really great intonation kind of smears it all, and it makes it sound a little less perfect, if you will, a little less pleasing, a little less what like you intended to. And the worst thing about intonation is that you often don't know you're playing out of tune. So this is again where recordings come in really handy. To talk a little bit more about recordings, because we're all still in the age of coronavirus and a lot of auditions are being held virtually. Man, don't make your first recording your only recording. So let's say you've been practicing again and you feel really great about your performance, you're sounding good, everyone sounds you sound good. Record yourself, especially if you're going to be doing it at home and doing it yourself. Just do it a couple times. Again, it's always about simulating the experience. It's like watching a baby walk for the first time. They're not going to walk the first time. They're going to try and try again. They're going to fall, they're going to cry. And it's not really like that natural to be great at something the first time. And it's okay to fail it. But again, you want to make sure you get those failures, those learning experiences, because failures are learning experiences, get them out of the way before the final important experience. You can still have the experience of failing and learning, but just get it out of the way before it has to hurt you. So for this DMA that I'm doing now, I actually did my whole audition over Zoom, and it was a really interesting experience. Obviously, I got the position, but I actually practiced getting on Zoom and making sure my microphone was ready and things like that, because a year ago or a year and a half ago, I had never really worked with audio or anything like that. And I've been learning how this past year, and now it's all very easy. I can sign on 5 minutes before, but when you have that first time of the audition, you don't want your connection to be bad and not know it. Oh, it's the worst. You hear, sorry, we can't hear you. What was that? And then you realize you've played the whole first piece and they've been talking to you and you had no idea. And well, you don't want that. So yeah, to sum it all up, again, preparation and time, intonation, and just getting yourself to a point where you feel really good. Most important is feeling good. And it's not always possible to feel good right away. And the biggest complaint I get from some of my students is it doesn't feel good. And then I'm like, that's great news. You've identified the problem that we all have, and now we get to work on it. And like, if you base everything off of feeling good, it makes it so that it's a good experience, because we always want experiences, even learning experiences, to feel good. I don't think there's enough focus on that in music. Like there's a lot of focus on playing really perfectly and doing it right, but it's possible to do that while feeling good. Like I don't think you need to have bad experiences to be a good musician.
Not again, like virtually, I'm not gonna lie, it's very hard to build those personal connections. So we are listening. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit quiet, but we are listening. I want to jump to the RSVP form and any questions that people may have. On the first question that we had was from Abraham Mayowa. I think Abraham, are you here?
I don't think so.
Oh, I see Abraham.
Oh yeah, Myoa.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, okay. Your question was what to do and what not to do during the audition. I think Titilayo hit on it pretty well, but did you have any other clarifying questions?
Yes, what to do and what not to do during the audition. I think I touched on what to do before the audition and how to be early and how to feel good before you go in, but I didn't touch on what to do during the audition. Okay, this is a great question. So the first audition I'll choose is like an orchestra audition where there's a screen and you're behind the screen. What you should not do is tune on stage. Do not do it. It's a bad thing. They are listening, and some people hate it. They really do. I've gotten comments back that said you wasted time tuning. So, and then what if you can't get your instrument perfectly in tune? And then they're going to hear that. Or what if they think you didn't get it perfectly in tune? You just don't want them to think about it. Tune backstage and then just start playing. Now, what you can do is come out and make sure you are settled and sit there calmly for 30 seconds. You can do that. And like, you could even like put your hand up and play a couple notes quietly, like silently, like without the bow, to make sure that you feel good. That's great. That's totally wonderful. Yeah, for excerpts, what you should do is take time between each of them. Don't feel like you're rushing them, and make sure that you have time to think about what each excerpt means. So you don't want your Mozart to sound like Shostakovich, you don't want your Shostakovich to sound like your Brahms, and you don't want your Brahms to sound like your Haydn, honestly. They're all very different eras, and in your preparation, you can take the time to think of things that trigger what you might want to play it like. But when you get there, it's just like, think about it. Like, okay, Brahms, romantic, vibrato. Mozart, like light, ringing. Shostakovich, angular and crisp. I write those in my music. So yeah, taking time between each excerpt, that's really awesome. In an audition where there's no screen, like for a school or for, even a job application, be friendly. It's like, come in, and even if you want to feel like the ball is in your court, this is a fun trick I have. So if you walk in and everyone seems like tired and they're like, oh, like it's the end of the day, be happy. Say, hello, everyone. Like, they're like, hello. You're like, hello, I'm so happy to be here. I'll be starting with this. Just take charge. They love it. Like it re-energizes people, because it's not your fault that they're tired and it's not personal. So just go in with like your usual attitude. Don't let them affect you. That's really serious, because I've taken auditions before where it's felt like they don't want me to be there. And that's in your head. Hopefully, if they're really thinking that, then you don't want that job. But if they're not thinking that and they're projecting that, don't take it personally. Just go ahead and think of exactly what it is that you'd want to do. Let me think. Is there anything else that I wouldn't do during an audition? Don't make faces. Ah, yes. This is important. If you feel like you messed something up, don't be like, oh man, or don't like go, because maybe they didn't notice. Maybe they didn't notice, or maybe it wasn't as big of a deal as you thought it was. So don't let them in on your secret. All right, let's see what the next question is. Oh yeah.
I believe Handel, are you in the building?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, your question was asking about the Titilayo's time with the Emerson Quartet.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Great. So the Emerson Quartet, I love those four people. They're absolutely wonderful humans. And I mean, we don't even need to say it, but like they're really great at their instruments too. And I'm so happy to have them as mentors and friends in a way. They've really been influential in my chamber music career. For everyone that arrived after I said this, I am the cellist of the Thalia String Quartet. It's spelled Thalea. And we've had the pleasure of working with the Emerson Quartet for several summers now and getting invaluable advice on our careers, like where we should be looking to for concerts or educational opportunities, down to just playing for them and playing our pieces before concerts and getting advice from that. They've been together over 40 years now, and so that's just really invaluable. They've commissioned all sorts of pieces and we're now playing them. They're now in the repertoire. So yeah, my time with them, at first when I went in, I was like, oh, my mentors, like they're so amazing, but they're actually really down to earth and really easy to work with. They're really fun. And I mean, they can be very direct when something's not sounding good, it's not fun anymore, and we get serious and we fix it. But yeah, I mean, we worked with them at the Norfolk Chamber Music Festival, at the Great Lakes Chamber Music Festival in Detroit. And also we've seen them all over. I worked with them at the Aspen Music Festival and worked with them individually. Like I worked with Paul, the cellist, and I've also worked with their former cellist, David Finkel. Very different players and very different people with very different advice. So that's a lot of fun. Yeah, they're really wonderful at sensing what a young ensemble could need.
Nice. I see Olawale Hassan. I see your message. Well, do you want to ask it yourself? I always like hearing people's voices, or I can ask it for you. No pressure, a little bit of pressure.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Sorry. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I asked a question, sent a message to him about how to conquer anxiety before going for an audition. Because I think that's a major one of the major challenges that musicians face. So I would like to know how to more advice on how to conquer it.
Okay. Yeah, I can touch on that. Let's see. Anxiety, my old friend. Okay. It's always there, and it can be less, it can be greater. The key is really in embracing it, acknowledging that you have it, and trying different situations that are low stakes to trick yourself into thinking that you're less anxious. It rises up sometimes for me backstage where I'll arrive at a concert and then suddenly I'll be like, I'm a sham. Like, I can't do this. Like, what am I even thinking? Did I practice enough? Do I have my bow in my case? It's very strange, the things that kind of go through your head when you're feeling anxious. I think writing down your anxieties is really helpful and vulnerable and comforting in a way. So, because it names what your anxieties are about. Like, it's not just a cloud of anxiety. There are specific things in there. So if you feel anxious and you're like, oh man, why am I feeling this? Why am I feeling anxious? Don't just assume it's the audition. Maybe it's something that you need to know about your playing. Maybe you're feeling anxiety because your teacher told you that your bow wasn't straight, and now it's sort of been lingering in the back of your head. It will pop into your head. Like, listen to yourself, listen to your heart, and go write it down. And then work on it. I don't know. I mean, you have to be a little bit resilient in the music industry, and there are some not nice people out there, some mean individuals who want to tear you down. And if you're your own biggest fan and your own biggest critic, it takes you a long way away from being hurt by like your own anxiety, because it's brought to life by other people. If you're in an audition and you're feeling anxiety come up, you can then, if you've already named what it is, you can be like, no, it's okay. Like, I've prepared, I'm early, I wrote down what it was and I fixed it from last time. And you do that until you get the job you want. And then it's a lifelong sort of journey to keep working on it, because it changes the things you're anxious about. And the better you get at fixing it, the faster it is and the less anxious you feel, because you're able to fix it yourself. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of a little bit more like psychological than like physical. I mean, physically, when I'm anxious, I'll go for a walk and just get off my phone, get off of Instagram, Facebook. I just put everything down. I get up and I go for a walk, and I like take deep breaths, and I try and get myself back in my body. I try and like feel everything. I'll like plant my feet and like, I'm like, okay, I'm here. And then I'll touch my desk and I'm here. And then I roll my shoulders. I take deep breaths, and it's always going to be okay. It may not be okay in the way that you think it will be okay, but there will always be something that sort of turns the corner on a bad experience.
Thank you. I think that's helpful. It's helpful.
Yeah.
And Dankeschön. Yeah.
But I think
We got a question in the box.
Valentine, are you talking about like if they ask for like classical? Are you talking about like what type of piece you do for the genre, or?
No, I'm talking. Hello.
Oh yeah,
No, I'm talking about I'm talking about the general choice of choosing, like how to choose a piece generally.
Okay, great. Yeah, I can talk on that. So the best choice of repertory for an audition and how best to make a better decision. Let's see. So, I mean, for most auditions, like it depends on what it is. For an orchestra audition, you'll be able to pick the concerto, maybe from a list. Sometimes it's pretty rigid. Don't pick something that you haven't played before, unless you have like a lot of time to learn it, I would say. Even if like it's something or also something that you played a long time ago, like don't do it. It's not worth it. You pick something that you've been playing a lot, and it can start to get really boring, to be honest. Like if you played the same piece a lot, you get bored, but like it sounds good. So just keep playing it. In terms, yeah, play something that's in your wheelhouse, as I call it, like something that you know. If you're doing an audition for a school, there's a lot more variety. They'll ask for maybe a sonata or a movement of Bach or a whole Bach suite or a concerto or an etude. In that case, usually for auditions, you're looking at it the year before, because that's when they announce it, like for grad school or for undergraduate at conservatory. So for that, I would say pick something that highlights your strong points. Like if you feel like you can't play fast notes very well, don't pick the last movement of Haydn D major concerto. If you feel like, or on a positive note, if you feel like you have a really amazing vibrato, maybe pick a romantic piece, like pick something from the classical era and on, romantic, contemporary, something like that. Because it'll just make your life easier. And there's time to learn the things you don't know later, not for the audition. Let's see, what else? I mean, don't feel like you have to pick something that's too hard for you. I know that's a sore point for some people because they feel that the piece they're playing isn't hard enough. But on the other hand, you don't want it to feel too hard. That's worse. I'd rather go into the audition playing something that's a little below my level and really slaying it, really playing it amazing and wonderful. And they're not going to be like, oh, well, why didn't she play something harder? They're just going to be blown away with how well you played the piece you played. So yeah, I think that would be that. And to go back to rule or step number 1 of the audition preparation, if you're gonna pick a piece that you really love, because that's also important, like your love for the piece will show through it, make sure you read through it before, because you don't want to get surprised about the last page because you didn't get to it yet. And sometimes the music looks different than it sounds.
Okay, thank you.
I think Olu. It's either is it? Or I don't see Benjamin here, but it's either Olu Yude or Olu Yi. Can someone help me out? Can someone help me out? Everyone knows my Yoruba is trash, so can someone help me out. I put it. Is it Olu Yude? Because I'm trying to get better at it.
Oluwatomise.
What was the handle?
Do you mean Oluwatomise?
Oh no, the name I just put in the chat. Olu is Olu Yude. Or Olu Yude. Okay, thank you.
Oluyide.
Okay.
Oluyide.
You know, going back to Oluwa, I have anxiety of pronouncing names sometimes. But, yes, his question. He's not here, but it's recorded, so hopefully he sees it. But I think he was asking TT about the challenges you faced being a cellist, and how you deal with very difficult pieces.
Okay, yes, the challenges that I face as a cellist. So I'd say one of the biggest challenges I faced as a cellist is having consistency in my playing. Yes, that would be the biggest challenge. And like consistency in how I have experiences. And, you know, I think most people's first reaction would be like, oh, like you need to control yourself. But I think it's actually letting go of control. You cannot control everything. And some of my best performances have come when I've like, you know, I put in all this preparation, you put in all the work, like it's there. But then in performance, you're too busy like, oh, I gotta do this just like this, and this is gonna be just like I thought of it. Free yourself, because it's not gonna be. Just go ahead and let go. Trust yourself. So my biggest challenge has been like consistency and trusting myself that like there's beauty within every note, and I've done it all before. I've seen these notes before, even if they're not in the same order, like just letting go and enjoying the experience, really being present on stage. You don't want to go 2 years and then you can barely remember the experiences of playing with your colleagues or traveling for concerts because you were so concerned with like what was happening with your playing. Like, free yourself. I think it's really awesome when you can sort of like feel so in your body, like not in your mind, but in your body, that you can look around and enjoy yourself, see your mom in the audience. I see my mom is here. Hi, Mom. And just enjoy yourself more. I think that's been my biggest struggle, is to make sure I'm enjoying myself as much as possible. And if you're not enjoying yourself, there's definitely something to find to enjoy. It could be that like the room is nice and air conditioned and your instrument feels good that day. Like the sound sounds good. To touch on how I deal with very difficult pieces while also enjoying myself. I was saying this earlier, but I thrive on progress. So the more progress I make, the happier I am, and acknowledging the progress. So again, like with very difficult pieces, like I'll often take the music and I will divide it up into sections so that I achieve my goals that I set for myself. So I set a lot of goals and I'll be like, okay, so there are 187 measures in this movement, and I feel like I can't learn even one of them. If that's how I'm feeling, I learn one measure. You know, I'll just learn one measure, or maybe it's a shift that's really hard, but I always set a goal, which is also a time frame. So let's say I have 5 months to learn a really difficult piece for a concert. Actually, you know, something that just occurred to me, I wonder why we don't treat concerts the same as auditions, or auditions the same as concerts. You know, like you prepare new pieces for concerts all the time, and I'm sitting here saying like you can't prepare new pieces for auditions. And the only reason is because like at the end of an audition, you get something, but at the end of a concert, you get something too. You get a great concert. And you could treat an audition like a concert. Like you could think of anything anyway. But anyway, before I get ahead of myself, that just occurred to me. It was like, why would you do that? So yeah, I'll break it down all the way to one measure, and I'll learn that one measure, and I'll feel good about it because then I achieved my goal. And then let's say I feel like I can do 7 measures. This is really like the bare bones, like the base level of learning music. You could get to the 7 minutes and the 7 measures and learn those, and then you'll feel really great about that. And then if you're consistent with your goal setting and hitting your goals, then you're going to learn the piece in no time, and it's going to feel really good because the whole way you've been doing exactly what you said you were going to do. Now, if you went the other way and you're like, this piece is really difficult and I'm going to learn it, and you don't set goals, you'll find yourself halfway through the piece and just like really dragged down. It'd be really stressful. Like, oh goodness, the feeling of not succeeding at something, it's one of the pillars of human experience is feeling failure, but like we don't like it. So I like to just find ways to make sure that I can smooth over the edges so that there are different levels of failure, and I can use those failures as stepping stones to success.
Okay, I would say, does that answer your question, Oluyide? But he's not here.
Okay.
I will move on. Samuel's not here, but I want to save time for. Let me see. We have one more person. Can someone help me pronounce Ka Siam Mobi?
Kasiemobi.
Okay. You say it better because. One of your questions was asking, how do you come prepared? Let me put it in the chat. Let me just put it in the chat because. But after this, if anyone has questions here, please feel free.
Okay. So the questions are, well, the first question is, how do you come prepared for an audition, especially when you are yet to apply to schools? How do you manage to gather repertoire? Okay, that's a really great question. How do you come prepared for an audition? So I mean, I touched on it a little bit already accidentally, but like, especially when you're yet to apply to schools, I maybe that means you don't have a teacher or something like that. Playing for other people and recording yourself is really how to prepare, especially in 2021. Like there's no excuse for not being able to play for somebody because you can get on Zoom, you can play for them, you can get on Google Meets, WhatsApp, like Kakao Talk, anything. Like you could find a way to talk to anyone, anywhere. And yeah, don't put all your eggs in one basket, I would say. It's not like having a safety net, because that's the wrong way to say it, because it makes you feel like you cannot focus on one thing, but it just is really important. Like you said schools, so I would assume that it would be like schools plural, which is very good. Like you have your top choice, and then find reasons to love every school. Don't just apply because like, just in case. Like maybe it's an amazing place, or maybe the teacher's amazing, but the place isn't so great, or maybe the school has less great reputation for great students, but maybe you'll be their next great student. So it really doesn't matter where you go, so long as you go and try. And how do I manage to gather repertoire? So I would join the International Society of Cellists on Facebook. I love this group. It's so great. It's full of cellists from all over the world, Germany, US, China, like Alaska, everywhere, Nigeria, everywhere. And they are always asking questions. And this goes back to when I was saying earlier, like just ask questions. And there's people in there every day asking like, oh, like I'm taking my first audition in 2 years for grad school or for undergrad, and I need to know what repertoire I'm gonna have. And someone will be like, here's a list of repertoire. Bam, your work is done. And then you can go and listen to it on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and just pick pieces that you love. And again, go back and look at all the music and see if it seems too hard for you. And it's okay if it is, you can always learn it, but adjust that to scale for the time you have to learn things. It's all proportional. It's all like a big math equation. It's like, is it a new piece? Yes. Is it do I have 3 months or do I have 3 years? It's all relative. You can do anything so long as you have the time. And sometimes you can do stuff without the time, but it will drive you completely mad if you do that your whole life, just like not having enough time and trying to do stuff. So yeah, for repertoire, I would go on imslp.com or this Facebook society. Here, I'll type it here. This Facebook society. Let's see, International Society. It's something like this. I'm not sure if that's precisely the name. If I find it before we're done, I'll send it along. Yeah, ask people, if you have a teacher, ask them to suggest some things, but like a large variety so that you can explore like different pieces. If you're preparing for an audition, they'll usually ask for, like for schools, they'll usually ask for a variety of repertoire from different eras. So make sure that you don't have all one thing. And yeah, just get the advice from the school on the repertoire, because you don't want to do an audition where everything you play is not on their list. They won't like that. But oftentimes they'll suggest a piece of choice or something like that. And then, okay, so the second part of this question is, what is your practice routine like? My practice routine, it varies. So yesterday, like I got home at 1 a.m. last night because I was flying back from California on the West Coast. So I didn't practice yesterday, which is totally fine because I was literally on a plane all day. But I try to, so I typically have string quartet rehearsal for 4 hours a day, or 3 or 4 hours a day. And then because my experience is accumulated, I tend to do 1.5 hours to 2 hours of practice a day to maintain or to prepare for like tomorrow's rehearsal or something like that. But right now I'm not preparing any like huge concert, so I can get away with that. When I'm preparing like for a competition or something like that, I'll practice as much as I need to. I don't put a limit or a minimum on it. I just do what I need to. And you can tell like you're over time, after you're more experienced, like how much time you need to prepare something. And I tend to plan ahead pretty well. So like I know that this month I'm performing so much and it's repertoire that I've studied and prepared before, that I don't need that much time, which allowed me to take more performances, which is what I wanted to do. So my ratio has sort of shifted in the grand scheme of things. But I do recommend playing every single day, even if it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. It just makes sure that the instrument always feels familiar. All right. And then there's another part to this question. What is your advice to young musicians who might want to take a similar path like you did? Ooh, so be really open to everything. Like I say that I can do anything. Like I can, well, I don't know if I can play, I don't know if you want to hear me play jazz, but like I like jazz and I'm working on it. So that's the final frontier. But like I could do anything. I can play an orchestra, I can play a solo, I can play chamber music, I can teach, I'm getting my doctorate. Be open to any opportunity, even if it sounds wild. Like when I joined my string quartet, everyone was like, you're totally out of your mind for moving to San Francisco, California, which is one of the most expensive cities in the world, but definitely the US, to join a string quartet. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm gonna make it work. So I made it work. So make it work. Have a teacher for sure, even if it's just like a friend who's further along than you. Play for people and have a teacher. And I mean, to get exposure, play in places, even if it's the coffee shop. Anytime you get offered something, especially when you're starting out, I would say yes, be a yes person. You can turn down stuff later. And that gives you those mock auditions, again, those chances to live the experience so that it becomes more and more comfortable until it's like second skin and everyone's like, how is this guy so comfortable and so confident? It's because you've done it before. I have a question in my direct message that I'll touch on real quick, and it's tell us my experience with Bach. So I'll jump into that real quick. Yeah, so with Bach, I mean, I've played 5 of the 6 suites. I don't play the 6th suite because I think it should be played on a 5-string instrument like it was designed for. There's a cello with a 5th string and E string, so that all those really like crazy acrobatic high passages, they're not like that, and it's amazing like that. So I would love to get a 5-string cello and do that, but I played all 5 of them. I've played Bach for Yo-Yo Ma. I've played it for all kinds of people. My favorite suite is the 5th suite, but I play it scordatura with the string tuned down, so I don't play it that often for auditions because that would be dangerous to tune your cello down and tune it back up.
Cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right. I'm very awkward, everyone. I'm very awkward in life over Zoom. So if no one has any more questions, I just want to say thank you so much for coming. Every time before these sessions happen, I just pray, hoping people will show up. So I give thanks that you all showed up. I think it's 5 p.m. for you all right now. So I would say continue to have a good morning or afternoon, Titilayo and her mom. And then everyone else, I guess, I hope you begin to sleep because you need 8 hours a day.
Yes.
Yeah. It wasn't the ending you wanted, but it's that. So if no one has any other questions, please have a good day. Have a superb day. Extraordinary day. Thank you so much, Titilayo, for joining us today.
Thank you, Daniel.
I appreciate it so much. Thanks for responding to my emails.
You're fine. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. You can email me. Yeah, you can email me or you can message me on Instagram, anything like that. I'm around. I'm more responsive on Instagram. I know, sign of the times. But yeah, I'm out there. Give me a follow.
Oh, let me drop her handle so you can hopefully get her verified before the end of 2020. If you want to follow plantain, it's like a tongue twister. Plantain pants.
It is exactly a tongue twister. I love plantain.
Let's get her already.
All right, everybody.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Oh, it's so nice seeing everyone's faces.
Yes.
Bye, Titilayo's mom.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, Hendo, is that your student?
Yeah, my baby.
Aww.
Nice. Is she drinking Mellow?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm joking.
Yeah, bye.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. Nerve-wracking. All right. Now I have to go on a long run.
Yes. I have to go to a gig, so.
Nice. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay.